Hello, hello, my beautiful family. I'm your host, Mimi Talut. Welcome back to another episode of Make Your Time Matter. So, in today's episode, we are going to be talking about a very important topic, and the topic is having faith. In episode one, I spoke about certain foundational mindset that we need to have before we can start living a life that we truly desire. And I honestly believe that having faith is one of those foundational mindset. So, in today's episode, I'm going to be sharing my personal story with having faith, how it all started, and how I am doing with it so far. I believe that my faith is the reason why I am not afraid to go after what I want in life because I trust in the Lord. I surrender everything to him. So whatever dream, whatever aspiration that I have, I just pray and I kind of like let God guide me and I see result. And because of that kind of experience, I feel like it's a positive and I feel like it's a positive experience and I kind of want to share my story with you guys and hopefully you guys can learn something from my experience. So I was introduced to Christianity at a very young age when I was in Haiti and I was introduced to it by my grandma. My grandma is very religious. She goes to church all the time. She prays all the time. And yeah, I can't remember a time that my grandma wasn't going to church. So I can say that she's definitely my role model when it comes to believing in God and going to church. She's definitely someone that I want to be like eventually. That's like my long-term goal when it comes to having faith and believing in God. I want to have that kind of relationship with God, the kind of relationship that I see that my grandma have with God. Yeah, so like I said, I was introduced to it. My grandma's my role model. And, growing up, my dad didn't go to church. My mom didn't really go to church, but they would always make my sister and I go to church. And, we would go with my grandma or with my aunts, but we would go to church. So, as you can all imagine, at a very young age, I used to feel like I was forced to go to church and I really didn't want to go because I'm like, okay, my parents are not going. I don't want to go. I just kind of want to stay home with them. But that was an option in Haiti. When an adult say you do something, you do it. You don't question it. You just go. So yeah, I used to feel like I was forced to go to church. Probably because I didn't understand the concept of believing in God, believing in the Bible, and I just didn't understand what it meant to be a believer. So I used to feel forced. I didn't really want to go to church. Also, I move around a lot. I used to stay with different relatives, and because I stay with different relatives, I used to have to go to different Christian church, Seven Days Adventist, Baptist, Catholic, you name it. I went to all these different churches, and sometimes I feel like they tried to compete with each other, but really they were like very similar. There wasn't anything different. They all believe in God, they all pray to God. And yeah, so I experienced all those churches. And one thing in Haiti is that it's very strict. When you go to like a Haitian church, they're very strict and they have certain belief that, honestly speaking, when I was growing up, I didn't agree with. And I'm gonna give you guys example of some of this belief. For instance, in Haiti, I know a lot of female when they go to church, they would wear a dress or a skirt. And the reason for that is because they believe that pants is meant for guys. So if a woman wore pants, technically they were wearing men clothing, and that was a sin. Like it was considered a sin to wear men's clothing. And I didn't agree with that because I felt like, okay, there are certain pants that are made for female. So I didn't understand why we couldn't wear these kind of clothes to church. Another thing was wearing fake hair, wearing jewelry. They just didn't believe in this kind of stuff. They believed that this kind of stuff belongs to the world. So therefore, you should not wear it if you are a child of God. And if you're the type of person who's wearing makeup or wearing fake hair or wearing jewelry, you're pretty much a sinner. And that used to get to me a lot because I felt like I couldn't uphold to that type of standard. Um, and growing up, I was really scared of going to hell because I'm telling you right now, I used to go to church mainly because I wanted to pray. I wanted to be on God's good side, so I went to heaven and not go to hell. So the fact that everything I did was considered a sin, it was pretty much kind of like depressing and discouraging. And I think because of all of those beliefs, my faith in the church, my faith in God started to falter. I started not believing. I started questioning everything. And when I moved to the United States, and I was older and I went to college, I pretty much stopped going to church. I was like, I don't believe in the Bible no more. I don't believe in the church. So I'm not going to church. But even though I stopped going to church, I knew in the back of my mind that there is a higher power. God does exist, and I still trusted him. So even though I wasn't going to church, I would still pray. I would still, surrender my plans, my goals to God. Like as I was in school, I would pray so I could pass all my grades. Like, I still believe in Jesus, but I wanted to do it my way. I didn't really want to do it the Haitian way, the way that the church was guiding us. I wanted to do it my way, but there was something wrong with my way because even though I still believe, even though I was still praying, but I noticed that I wasn't consistent. I would neglect praying sometime, or I would neglect giving God's glory. I would pray when I wanted. It wasn't something that I made it a habit. I did whatever I want, and I would go to party, but I would always pray to God. And I realized that I wasn't happy. I wasn't happy with how I was going about the whole situation. And even though I was partying and thinking I'm living my best life, I knew that wasn't the lifestyle that I wanted. It just wasn't for me. Now, I'm not saying that if you're partying that you're wrong or you're not a child of God. Everybody has to go through their own experiences and learn from it. I'm just saying that I partied my fair share. I reached a certain point where I didn't enjoy it no more. And I think the reason why I didn't enjoy it no more is because, like, when I used to party, I wasn't really doing it for myself. I kind of just did it because growing up, my parents were very strict. I wasn't allowed to party. So once I had the liberty to party, I took advantage of it. And I used to party all the time. But then the more I partied, the more I realized I was partying for the wrong reason. It was kind of like a rebellious stage of my life. It wasn't really my scene. It wasn't really something that I truly enjoyed. So in the back of my mind, I knew I had to get back to God and connect it with God in a deeper level. But it took more than 1 year before I finally came back to God. Even though I stopped partying, I still didn't go to church. I'm still going about my life, starting a new career, but I'm still praying. But things started changing because God is a very faithful God. God is very loyal, and I have proof that God is in my corner. I can tell you there was a time where I used to pray about three specific things, and these things included my family's health, for my mom to buy a house in the United States, and for me to get a career where I get paid salary and I don't have to live paycheck to paycheck, and I'm able to pay all of my bills. And I used to pray about these three things religiously. Every day I woke up, I would pray about it, even though I didn't go to church. But I would pray, I would trust in the Lord, I would have faith. And before I knew it, I got a career. Like right after college, I started a career, and I was making salary and I was paying all of my bills. I wasn't living paycheck to paycheck. I was happy. As you can see, God answered my prayers. All of my family was in perfect health. Yeah, we can have a cold or a fever here and there, but for the most part, my family was healthy. That's another prayer that God answered. And then my mother was able to buy a house. Yeah, it took us 10 years before we got the house. Overall, God still came through. God answered another prayer. So when I start reflecting on my life and I start analyzing all the things that God has done for me, I realize that, wow, God is really faithful, and I need to be faithful to God too. In the back of my mind, I knew I had to be faithful to God, go back to God, pray, read the Bible and all that. So I'm telling myself all that, but I still wasn't doing anything, okay? I still was just living my life and praying here and there. And at a point in my life, I kind of hit rock bottom where I was super depressed, I was unhappy, and I pretty much didn't know what to do with myself. And I decided to join the military. When I joined the military, as I was going to boot camp, it's very stressful mentally, physically. But one good thing about the military and going to boot camp was that we had the option to go to church. So I started going to church over there and I truly enjoyed it. It was so fun. It was actually the highlight of my journey in the military, like in boot camp. And I had so much fun. And the friends that I made, they also had faith and were going to church and we would talk about God. That's when I started connecting to God again. And, I started reading the Bible and I started realizing that I shouldn't be taking things personally. Just because I don't agree with what a pastor is preaching doesn't mean I have to run away, because that's pretty much what I did. Like, I didn't agree with the way that, the pastor used to preach in like the Haitian church. I didn't agree with the things they were saying. Therefore, I lost faith in the church and I pretty much left. But that's not how we should go about things. The thing is, we are different people and we all interpret things differently. For example, I can literally give you a passage from the Bible. I can read it and you can read the exact same passage. Now, if we're discussing it, I guaranteed you I will have a different perspective from your perspective. I mean, we can have the same perspective, but for the most part, there are certain things we're gonna view differently. And that's okay because we all process information differently and we all have a different understanding, a different point of view of certain situations. And that's what I started realizing. So I started approaching church and I started approaching the Bible a different way because I'm like, okay, just because this person is telling me this is what they understood from it, I can listen to them. And if there's something from what they're saying that I can learn from, that I can take and use it, I will do that. And if there's something that I don't agree with, I can just leave that part out. But once I started doing that, it became easier and I felt more comfortable going to church. And I can tell you now, I feel love, I feel blessed because now I can say that I fully returned to God. And I started going to church, I started reading the Bible, and now I even do like Bible study by myself. It's new and I'm still learning, but let me tell you, there are like some amazing passages in the Bible where when you read it, you're pretty much learning, and they can also be like very motivational and very encouraging. So, yeah, I'm in this whole new journey of like reconnecting with God, and I'm having fun with it. And I'm still looking for a church. I don't have a church that I can say like that's my home. I just kind of like church hopping. So I will go to like different church and listen to different sermon services. But for the most part, I am taking my faith more seriously. Instead of just praying, I'm actually taking time doing Bible study, taking notes, praying more often. I also started fasting as well, which is another good aspect of like having faith and connecting to God. Yeah, hopefully I will make an episode about fasting and of my experience with it. So that's my story with having faith. So God is a faithful God. With God, nothing is impossible. Um, Basically, just believe in Him, trust in Him, and whatever plan that you have in life, just surrender it to God, and He will definitely guide you in the right direction. So yeah, this is pretty much it for this episode. I hope you learned something from it. The one thing that I can encourage you guys is to believe in God, trust in Him, and just let Him guide you in life. If you're someone who already believes in God, you are in the right path. keep up the good work. And if you're someone like me who pretty much lost your faith and kind of like walk away from God, it's okay. Life happens, and sometimes, we have doubts, sometimes we question things. But just trust the process. Maybe this is just a process you have to take so you can learn something. Trust in God, believe in Him, and ask Him for guidance. Ask Him to guide you back to Him, and trust me, you'll eventually find yourself back to God. That's what I did. Honestly, since I started reconnecting with God more, I feel more happy. I feel like I am a much more positive person, and I love being positive. So I love having a good connection with God, and I really hope that you guys can start a journey with God as well. And if you are someone who doesn't believe or who just don't know where to start, just pray and ask Him for guidance. So I really hope you guys got something from this episode. And this is it for today. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoy it. If you like this episode, leave me a written review of what you like and how I can improve overall. And follow us on social media. We have an Instagram page at Make Your Time Matter. Okay, bye. Have a nice one.